This version of Optimus Prime has the violent tendencies of Michael Bay's Optimus Prime.
Give me your face.
And the fighting skills of... So, Rise of the Beast has been out for more than a year now, and I have some things to say about Optimus Prime. I think it's the right time now. I feel like the stars have aligned themselves for this very moment. I built that one. It also happens to be the 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise. So I watched the movie a few times, scanned all the footage, did my research, looked at all the data, and was able to conclude that you don't know how to fight. That boy don't know how to fight. This version of Optimus Prime has the violent tendencies of Michael Bay's Optimus Prime.
Give me your face.
And the fighting skills of Scrappy Brian.
Let me get him! Let me get him!
I mean, if you look at the way he fights, let's look at it in rounds. The first round, for example, when Optimus Prime takes a swing with his blade, he scrapes it against the ground. And it just makes him look like he has bad eye-hand coordination. And it's not like Scourge is moving particularly fast or anything. He also likes to dull out his blade a lot for some reason. If you like own a machete or something similar, that's the last thing you should do with your blade. So a blade doesn't work. Let's try an axe. Maybe that'll work. Okay. Also doesn't work. And there lies the problem. He keeps doing the same attack over and over and over again. And they didn't just make Optimus Prime look weak, they made him look like a fool. Look at him! Even got them feet in the air. I know the intent was to show how powerful Scourge was, but with the way they executed it, they just took the lazy route and made everyone just look ineffective. Because the way Scourge fights is relatively basic. Usually a quick way to demonstrate how strong a new villain is by having the hero throw the strongest attacks at the villain, only for them to realize after a while how outmatched they are. But having a hero who can't even land a single punch on the villain doesn't make the villain look strong. It just gives the impression that said hero really sucks at fighting. And because it's Optimus Prime's first fight scene with Scourge, it's also the first impression that will stick with us as an audience of what he's capable of. Or rather not capable of. Okay, so next encounter he starts shooting Scourge from a distance to soften him up, which is a good strategy. Seriously, I'm not kidding. That's generally a good tactic. Too bad his arm blaster has about as much firepower as a pea shooter toy. So shooting Scourge doesn't work either, so they start to grapple and they fall off a cliff. And Optimus stumbles into Scourge and is able to sock him in the face. And it leaves Scourge mildly inconvenienced. The movie then has this swelling music and tries to make it look like it's supposed to be this big moment for Optimus. Oh yes, Optimus Prime landing a single punch on Scourge after more than an hour. What an achievement. But the way it came across for me, it seemed more like a fluke. And then comes the final battle. And he doesn't really do anything more different from the previous battles. And even when he has Noah on his side, we see very briefly that Scourge is blocking Prime's blade again like he did before. And we see that it's actually Noah who's doing the most damage. Okay, it does splash him with some lava, but here again it comes across as Optimus Prime being able to end Scourge just because the movie is about to end. You know what other movie Rise of the Beast has the same problems in common with? They both want to defeat the bad guy, but they don't really try to figure out on how to defeat the bad guy. They might change their approach a little bit here and there, but other than that, once they get up close, they just do the same thing over and over again. Usually we have a protagonist that has a storyline that involves a lot of fighting or combat. Part of their character development comes from figuring out some way to defeat the villain. For example, you see here that Scourge has this big gaping hole in the side of his head, right? How about we have Optimus pull one of these on Scourge? And the movie almost baits you into thinking something like that will eventually happen. We get multiple views of his head wound throughout the movie, and you would think Optimus tried to exploit that weakness to gain the upper hand. But that never happens. It would have been a nice moment to show that this Optimus was learning from his mistakes. And that is my biggest pet peeve here. That Optimus doesn't make any progress over the course of any of his battles, and it's almost like the filmmakers deliberately went out of their way to make him look as weak as possible. There is even a deleted scene where Optimus in his truck mode rams skirt through a wall. And it looks really badass. And then they decided to cut that out. What a waste of money. But his fighting skills are not the only issue here. And to get more context on that, we need to go back in time. No, not that far! As a character, I feel like he was retconned from what he was in the Bumblebee movie. Because in Bumblebee, it looked like Prime was already established as the great leader of the Autobots. And they show you very well why. In the 5 minutes of screen time, his establishing moment is to charge in and help his fellow Autobots escape. He knows where the battle is lost.
Fuck!
Prioritizes the Autobots' safety above anything else.
Cybertron has fallen. Get to the escape pods.
Is shown to give clear and concise instructions to Bumblebee.
But we must find refuge first.
Leadership.
I found a planet that's well hidden. Earth. You will travel there and establish a base for us. Once we've gathered the others, we'll join you.
Stays behind as the last Autobot to fend off the Decepticon army.
Good luck, soldier. I'll buy you some time.
Simultaneously showcasing his combat skills. Gives me a compliment.
Old friend, you kept this planet safe. Because of you, we have a future, B.
We as an audience understand very quickly why the Autobots chose him as a leader in a very logical way. In conclusion, in Bumblebee, Optimus Prime was portrayed as a very proactive leader. In Rise of the Beast though, the Autobots look up to him because he's tall, because he has a cool voice.
No, it is a bad idea.
In this movie, there's not really anything that makes him stand out amongst the other Autobots. As I stated before, he does not excel at combat at all. When it comes to his leadership skills, well, I think he could use one of these. So there is a scene in the movie where Mirage proposes a plausible plan to retrieve the transform key with Noah. And Optimus Prime's response is, "What? Yeah, so Optimus allows Mirage to do his own thing, but at the same time..."
I do not like this plan.
Let me ask you this, Optimus. Do you have a better plan then? Yeah, so throughout this whole movie, Optimus is really obstructive and dismissive of what others propose to him. And what's even worse is that he rarely has a plan of his own. And he's kind of bipolar. He forces his dislike for humans,
You brought a human here?
but doesn't know what to do with him once he meets one of them.
I will deal with your mistake later.
He cares about Bumblebee when he's dead,
This cannot be.
but he doesn't care about his opinion regarding humans.
You can't handle the truth!
I do not want you going to that drive-in theater anymore.
And that's one of his first major character flaws. He always makes these half-baked decisions. Well, technically the correct term is undercooked. What can I say? I'm not Gordon Ramsay. That, or in other words, he always goes back on his own decisions.
We should not be relying on a human. It should have been me.
They
I
should
should
have
have
built fire
gotten the
escapes on those
key
windows for the
myself.
higher floors.
I should
They
have
should have
known
built it
better.
with.
We
They shouldn't have
should
built
have
that
been
there.
fighting the
Because
darkness
now you can't park
together.
any fire.
This movie also seems to cherry-pick plot points from the previous movie and acknowledge events, but only in broad strokes. For example, the main goal for his character here is to get back to Cybertron. On the surface level, it seems to be in line with what was established before. However, after a single rewatch, I can confirm that's not exactly the case. In fact, getting off the planet was exactly the thing that would increase their chances of survival, not returning to the planet, which is something he explicitly says.
There are other Autobots scattered across the galaxy. We must reach them if we hope to survive.
Here he acts like getting back to Cybertron is the sole solution to all of his problems.
Do you think an energon infusion could bring him back?
Perhaps. If we could get him back to Cybertron.
You mean this Cybertron?
Decepticons, attack!
And Rise of the Beast also makes it look like the end goal of his plan was always to get stranded on Earth, with no means to leave it. And that base he told Bumblebee to establish,
You will travel there and establish a base for us.
nothing about that comes to fruition. Instead, they've been hiding for all those years, which is something Optimus explicitly ordered him to do so.
You were told to stay hidden.
All that time spent squatting on Earth they could have used to fix the spacecraft or finding ways to refuel. But no, the only thing the Autobots have been doing in that time is go to the movies apparently.
I do not want you going to that drive-in theater anymore.
Instead, Optimus passively waits for a miracle to happen. This Prime needs to go for what others propose to him instead of taking a proactive approach himself. And this makes Optimus Prime a glaring example of incompetent leadership. And regarding his prejudice against humans, if anything else, he should have been the one who sorted everything out, not adopt the mentality of one of his soldiers, who by the way only did that out of necessity because he wasn't able to properly explain himself. Most of the reasons he lists are merely some vague assumptions not based on any fact, which is in stark contrast to Bumblebee, who actually put in the effort to work things out with the humans, and got it resolved in the end. But here, Optimus simply chooses to ignore that. Another flaw he has is that he overestimates himself way too much. He keeps talking like his victory on Scourge is already a foregone conclusion, but he has none of the skills to back that up.
Then, kill Scourge and take his piece.
Except for the last few minutes of the movie.
This belongs to a friend of mine.
It's great, but I'm dead.
Optimus said angrily to the decapitated corpse. Saying something like that doesn't hold much weight if said person is already dead. I guess it's supposed to sound badass, but it just makes Optimus come across as unhinged. I kinda understand that they wanted to create a flawed character in this movie, but what you get here is that you create a separate problem that is not an extension of what his character established in the previous movie. It's like taking a tire away from a car and then putting the same tire back on and claiming you repaired the car. Personally, I wouldn't mind Optimus behaving like this, but the problem here is that we don't see what leads up to him being like this. We get somewhat of an explanation from Mirage through some exposition, but that's merely his own interpretation, and it's not reflected in the movie itself. It's really such a pity, because this is one of the first live-action movies where more focus is put on Optimus Prime himself, but they just didn't use that screen time very well. However though, this video is not without a payoff. So with all the arguments presented, I've decided to include Rise of the Beast version of Optimus Prime in the TV tropes list of characters that suffer from character derailment, and also on the trope page of the movie itself. You can check it out in the links below. Thank you for watching.